Hi there. Are you ready to do some more Bible period questions with me? Remember, we're trying to decide whether these events are going to go in the Old or the New Testament, and then we're going to try to figure out which Bible period each event fits under. When we learn all of these events and what time periods they fit in, we can better understand the whole story of God from the Old Testament all the way through to the New. And that's a wonderful thing. So let's begin. Our first event is Samson. Remember when he used his strength to push the pillars of the temple apart and the building collapsed on the Philistines, defeating them? Was that Old or New Testament? That was Old Testament. And what Bible period does that fit in? Remember, Samson was a judge, so it's the period of the judges. Very good. Let's do our next one. How about when 10 plagues came upon Egypt? Remember all of those plagues that finally Pharaoh decided to let the people go? Was that Old or New Testament? Old Testament, good. And what Bible period does that fit in? The Exodus. Very good. Okay, next one is Solomon. He asked God for wisdom. We should all ask God for wisdom. But which Old or New Testament does that fit in? Old Testament. And which Bible period does it fit in? Solomon was a king of the United Kingdom. Our next one is Paul survives a shipwreck. Is that Old or New Testament? Our first New Testament. Very good. And which Bible period does it fit in? The early church. He was going about preaching and teaching, wasn't he? Teaching about the kingdom of God. All right. How about when God stopped talking to the people? He no longer spoke to them through prophets or visions. Is that Old or New? And this one might be a trick. It doesn't really fit in the Old or the New, does it? What period is that? Is this a good hint? The years of silence. I bet some of you got that, didn't you? All right, that was my only trick. That's my only trick for today. How about when Jesus was raised from the dead? Old or New Testament? That's our New Testament, isn't it? Okay. And what Bible period? The life of Christ. Oh, here's a tough one. How about when Israel was taken into captivity, taken away to Assyrian captivity? Is that Old or New Testament? Old and Bible period? If Israel is gone, then Judah is alone. Very good. How about when Moses dies and Joshua becomes the new leader for the Israelites? Old or New Testament? Old Testament. And what time period is that? Joshua is the new leader and he leads them into their first battle in Jericho. So the time period is invasion and conquest of the land. Oh, here's a good one. How about when God put a rainbow in the sky as a sign? Old or New Testament? Old Testament. And what time period was that? During the flood. Okay? This one is a letter written to a young man named Timothy, telling him, don't let your being young stop you. You keep preaching. Is that in the Old or the New Testament? New Testament. Good. And what time period would that fit in? The letters to the Christians. He has 1st and 2nd Timothy, which were letters written to him. How about when many people were healed by the apostles? They were showing many signs and wonders. Is that in the Old or the New Testament? New Testament. And what time period would that be? The early church. Very good. Who got that one? No? Yes? Good job. How about when Ezra restores the law? Old or New Testament? Old. Very good. And what time period would that fit in? He's restoring the law. All kinds of things are being set back up because they are returning from captivity. Very good. How about when Abraham received 3 promises from God? Old or New Testament? Old Testament. And what time period is that? Abraham was one of the Patriarchs. And by the way, does God keep all 3 of those promises? Absolutely. All right, our next one. Israel demands a king. They want to be like all the other people around about them. Was that in the Old or the New Testament? Old Testament. And what time period? The judges. Remember, God's given them judges to rule over them and help them, but they don't want the judges anymore. They want a king. They want to be like the other nations about them. And that comes with a warning, but they did not heed it. Okay, our next one. Many people believe and are baptized. Old or New Testament? New Testament. And what time period is that? The early church. Very good. Let's see. Let me think of another one. See if I can stump somebody. How about when the apostles write down inspired words from God? Old or New Testament? New Testament. Good. And what time period is that? The letters to the Christians. Very good. Now, here's another good one. How about when Elijah is on Mount Carmel and there is a contest between Baal and God? Didn't end up being much of a contest because God wins decisively. But isn't that old? Is that in the Old or the New Testament? The Old Testament. And what time period does that fit in? Oh, let's see. That's tricky. Elijah was a prophet. That was during the divided kingdom. He had a tough job. Now, our last one. Who can tell me when Jesus died on the cross? Is that Old or New Testament? That's our New Testament, isn't it? And what time period would that fit in? The life of Christ. We learn about him from his birth to his death on the cross, and then he is again raised and the New Testament is fulfilled, or the Bible is fulfilled, the New Testament carries on, and the early church begins. That's all I have for you today. I hope you did really well. You can always go back and watch the video again until you can put them in their proper place just that fast. And I know some of you are already just that good. We'll be back later with some more events. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.